All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about operating and financial leverage. We're going to pull back the curtain on these hidden forces that can seriously amplify a company's financial results, sometimes for the better, and sometimes, well, for the worse. You've probably seen this happen, right? A company announces, say, a 5% dip in sales. Doesn't sound too bad, but then you see their stock price just tank because their profits got totally wiped out. You're left wondering, how on earth does that math work? It feels like an overreaction, but it's not. Well, the secret is a really powerful, kind of hidden force working inside that company's finances. It's a concept called leverage, and it acts exactly like a lever you'd use in the real world. You apply a little bit of force, and you get a huge result on the other end. At its heart, leverage is really all about sensitivity. It's just a way of measuring when this one thing changes a little, this other thing over here changes a lot. It's all about that relationship between a cause and its magnified effect. To really get this, we're going to break it down into two parts. So first up is operating leverage. I like to think of this as the production multiplier. It's all about a company's day-to-day operations. Okay, so let's do a super quick tour of the top part of an income statement. Everything kicks off with sales, right? From that, you take out your variable costs. That's stuff that changes with every item you sell. What's left is called contribution. Then you subtract your fixed costs, things like rent that you have to pay no matter what, and boom, you've got your operating profit, or EBIT. This structure is absolutely key to understanding everything else.
Now, check this out. Let's imagine a really simple business that has zero fixed costs. When its sales go up by 50%, from 5,000 to 7,500, look what happens to its profit. It also goes up by exactly 50%. See that? It's a perfect one-to-one relationship.
In a case like this, we say the degree of operating leverage, or DOL, is just 1. There's no multiplier. A 1% change in sales gets you a 1% change in profit. It's simple, it's predictable. But this is where it gets really interesting. Okay, now let's introduce just one little fixed cost into the mix, 1,000 rupees in rent. Now, watch what happens. That same 50% increase in sales causes our operating profit to absolutely explode, going from 500 all the way to 1,250. That's a 150% increase. The whole game just changed. Our degree of operating leverage is now 3. This is our first multiplier. And what it means is that for every single 1% change in this company's sales, its operating profit is going to change by 3%. That's the hidden power of fixed costs. And this quote nails the reason why. The change in profit is more than proportional. Because those fixed costs, well, they're fixed. They don't change. So once you've earned enough to cover your rent, every single extra rupee of contribution after that flows straight down to your profit, juicing the results. And for anyone who loves a good shortcut, there's a super simple formula to figure this out. You just take your contribution and divide it by your EBIT. In the example we just saw, that's 1,500 divided by 500, which gives us exactly 3. Okay, so that was the production side of things. Now let's see how this effect gets even bigger with our second multiplier, financial leverage. And this is all about how a company pays for everything. We're picking up right where we left off. Remember that 150% jump in operating profit? Okay, now let's say the company has some debt, so it has to pay a fixed interest cost of $250. Just like rent, it's a fixed cost. Now look at the effect on what's actually left for the shareholders. It leaps from $250 to $1,000. That is a massive 300% increase. So the degree of financial leverage, or DFL, is 2. This is our second multiplier. It's telling us that for every 1% change in our operating profit, the earnings that belong to shareholders, will change by 2%. And yeah, you probably guessed it. There's a clean formula for this one too. DFL is just your EBIT divided by your EBIT minus your interest payment. For us, that's 500 divided by, well, 500 minus 250, which gives us 2. Simple. Now this is maybe the most crucial point to remember. This amplifier works in both directions. It is a classic double-edged sword. It's great when things are going up, but a 1% drop in operating profit would cause a painful 2% drop in what shareholders get. The downside is just as powerful. So we've got our production multiplier and our funding multiplier. What happens when we put them both together? This is where you see the full, truly explosive effect of leverage. And the math here is beautifully simple. The degree of combined leverage, or DCL, is just your operating leverage multiplied by your financial leverage. You're literally just stacking one multiplier on top of the other. So For our little case study company, we take our operating multiplier of 3 and our financial multiplier of 2, and we get a total combined leverage of 6. This is the aha moment. This single number connects the very top line of the business, sales, all the way down to the very bottom line. And what this means in plain English is pretty staggering. A tiny 1% change in sales will ripple all the way through the company's structure and create a massive 6% change in the final earnings for shareholders. This is that hidden engine that drives so much of the volatility we see in business. So we've seen how it all works mechanically. But why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Let's talk about leverage, risk, and what this all means for you. First, just a quick but really important clarification. You'll often hear the term financial leverage used to mean two slightly different things. What we've been talking about is its effect on profitability, the DFL. But people also use it to talk about a company's solvency, measured with things like the debt-to-equity ratio from the balance sheet. One is about profit volatility. The other is about long-term financial health. It's super important to know which conversation you're in. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, if you're a manager, you can think of leverage as a strategic dial you can turn to adjust your company's risk profile. And if you're an investor, this explains so much about why some stocks are just wild roller coaster rides, while others are slow and steady. High leverage always means high risk, but it also means high potential reward. It really is the engine that can power both spectacular growth and catastrophic failure. So I'll just leave you with this thought experiment. You're the CEO. The economy is looking a bit shaky, uncertain. Do you take on more debt to build that new factory, amplifying your potential rewards? Or do you play it safe, stay lean, and keep your risk low? The right answer? Well, it depends entirely on your business, your confidence in the future, and ultimately on your mastery of this powerful, double-edged sword we call leverage.